J7 Star Bricks, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to compare the UCS Super Star Destroyer Executor. This is a Lego UCS model, but this one's a knockoff to the Mould King Super Star Destroyer Executor. And see which one's better. And for fun, we threw in the MIDI scale Lego one. Before we get started, if you like the video and you find it helps you out, please give us a like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. It will help the channel out. Consider becoming a member. We have exclusive member benefits, early access to videos, exclusive member videos. Consider giving us a super thanks to donate money so we can buy more of these sets to review for you. And now, on with the show. All right, let's start with an up-top view here. So you can see these are kind of very different sets right from the get-go. Try to fit them both in here. And here you have the Mould King. This is the new MIDI scale Lego one. And then this is the knockoff Lego UCS Super Star Destroyer. Now you can see right off the bat, Lego has chosen on all of their Super Star Destroyer models to go with dark bluish gray and light bluish gray. So you've got a lot more contrast in color on the greebling, whereas pretty much every single part, aside from the antennae, is light bluish gray on the Mould King version. I do wish neither of the large versions had this, but if you look at a lot of the pictures from the movies, there is like a blue glow coming from some of the parts of the Super Star Destroyer. And this MIDI scale model kind of tries to emulate that. You've got some trans clear blue in there. So that's kind of cool, but I'm not sure how I feel about the dark gray on the greebling there. If we check our Star Wars complete vehicle guide, we can see the picture in here. You see what I'm talking about with the blue glow coming from a lot of areas of the ship. In the middle area does look a bit darker, but I think that's more because of shadows than it is the actual color of the ship. It's kind of hard to tell. It's always shown in space, so we don't really have a good understanding of whether it should all be light or whether some of the other parts should be darker. It's hard to tell. It looks good either way. I tend to like the way the Mould King one looks a little better. And if you look at this picture, how wide this is, clearly the Mould King one is wider. And that looks like a way more correct shape. In terms of dimensions, the Lego knockoff set is 15 inches wide from the point of the triangle here to this triangle point. The Mould King one is so wide it's under the Lego knockoff one. From this point here to this point here is actually 20 inches wide. So it's about 5 inches wider. It definitely looks much wider. In terms of length, the knockoff Lego one is about 50.5 inches long, and the Mould King one is 53.5 inches long. So that one is a little bit longer, a little bit wider, a little bit bigger, a lot more parts. In terms of the piece count, you're looking at 7,284 pieces for the Mould King model. That is a giant model. And probably close to half, a little less than half actually, 3,028 pieces for the knockoff Lego UCS model. So quite a bit more pieces in the Mould King version. You can kind of tell that just by contrasting the greebling. There is a lot less of it on the Lego version and a ridiculous amount of it on the Mould King version. When we're talking about pricing here, talking about anywhere from $230 to $260 for the Mould King version, and about $150 for the knockoff Lego UCS version. Now, the thing to note with that is the Mould King version is still available in most of the stores I had checked for it. I cannot find a store right now that has the knockoff Lego UCS set in stock, and I'm not sure if they're gonna get more in. This Lego UCS set that this knockoff is based on came out quite a while ago, and knockoff sets tend to be produced only for a limited period, so it may be that it will be a while or never before we see this knockoff on the market again. So that is something to take note of if you're interested in these. Obviously, one of the first major differences is that Mould King does not come with minifigures or a plaque, and the knockoff Lego UCS version obviously comes with a plaque and minifigures. Aside from that, we can see from this side-on view, here's the Mould King one in front of the knockoff one. You can see that the knockoff Super Star Destroyer is much taller. So the stands that we're getting with the knockoff hold this set up quite a bit higher than the Mould King version. And you can actually see over here, the knockoff is sitting over the Mould King version. I had to do that to get them to fit on the table together. So it is sitting on there a bit higher. Now, I wish that this situation was reversed, because the Mould King Super Star Destroyer, look at all the detail on the bottom. So this section here, there is a shot from Empire Strikes Back with a Star Destroyer coming up underneath the Super Star Destroyer here, and you can see this detail in the movie. Mould King has done a fantastic job of putting all this detail on the bottom of this Super Star Destroyer. It's plated, it looks great. There is just a lot of detail down there. But it sits very, very close to the surface that you're displaying it on. On the other hand, this design lifts it up quite a bit higher, but there's really nothing but negative stud space on the bottom. It's just the bottom of a bunch of knockoff Lego plates. Why? So the one without any detail lifts it up so you can see there's no detail, and the one with detail puts it so close to the table you'll never see this unless you move the entire model. Interesting. As far as greebling on the side, they are both greebled in between the wedge parts of the Star Destroyers here. This is the knockoff one. This is the Mould King ones. The Mould King one is a bit further in, and the sides are a little bit closer together. So it's very hard to see the greebling on the Mould King one. This model just begs for a light kit with those blue lights. Now, in terms of the engine detail on the bottom of the back side, this is what we're getting with the Mould King version. They've still got that orange glow from the movie. The multiple engine sections. Very, very detailed and well done. Lots of greebling. This is what is underneath the knockoff UCS version. Not as much greebling, but still, it still looks good. I still like this. I really liked the way this one was put together. They're big chunks that kind of click in there, but then you get to the rest of the bottom and there's nothing. And this one, you get up to the engines and it's plated in front of them and it looks really good. And the engines look really good on this one. It's just that, whoops, nothing. Ooh, pretty. Now in terms of the top side, these models in the movie, we never really get a very close look. You can just see that there's a bunch of stuff. A bunch of what almost looks like buildings and towers and stuff built onto the top of the ship. And both of these kind of convey that well. It's just that the Mould King one is super greebled. So it just looks like a ton more detail on this section. And honestly, if I was going to use one of these to stand in as a model in a movie, it would be this one, because there is just so much going on here. It just looks more finished. Lego used some bigger chunks when they designed theirs, and whoever designed the Mould King one did not do that. They just super greebled it. As far as the bridge tower, they both have that iconic Star Destroyer bridge tower with the shield generator domes. However, I think both of them did not make this prominent enough in the pictures and movie shots. This actually sticks up quite far. I think Mould King's is a little better because it doesn't have anything behind it, so it looks like it sticks up a little more. Whereas the Lego design, it's got stuff behind it, so it's not quite as prominent. But in the movie shots I looked at, this looks like it sticks up even more than it does on either of these models. But it doesn't look bad, just a picky detail. As far as the plating, the Mould King one, this is where a lot of the extra parts come in, because it's a lot of little tiny plates on the top here, and then triangle plates with 4 studs. So that looks really good. Mould King has these cross sticks in here to close the gap, which it's not the best design because they tend to move around when you move the ship, but it does close the gap. The Lego design does nothing with that gap. It's just this giant ugly gap that should not be there on the ship. And they did that with the regular Star Destroyer too, and it just looks terrible. Wish they would do something to fix that. You make all this money, you can't come up with a part at the correct angle for Star Destroyers to just click over this gap and close it. It seems like you could just come up with some sort of angled plate to fix that. And then in terms of the Star Destroyers that come with it for size reference, here is the Mould King Star Destroyer. The little mini one that comes with it. Looks pretty good, except for it's kind of flat. They didn't put too much effort into it because it's just the tiny model to do a size reference in comparison. You know, ooh, kilometer long Star Destroyer, 15 kilometer long Super Star Destroyer. This is how much bigger it is. That's kind of what they're going for. The Lego designed one is super lazy. It's, I don't know, it's okay. It's not great. There's nothing on the bottom of it. Yeah, you get the idea with the 3 engines on the back, but when you look at it, it looks more like a shuttle or something with wings, because it's not, there's no plates on the bottom meeting that to give you that Star Destroyer shape. This one, while flat, at least has more of a suggestion of a Star Destroyer shape. This one is kind of lazy. When you look at the MIDI scale one that Lego did, that is flat, but it doesn't look like wings because there's just, you know, not enough detail. But they don't even have engines on these because they're too tiny to do it with. But that actually looks better than what they did for the UCS version, I think. That's kind of, I don't know, that's just kind of lazy. That just seems to be the theme of Lego. It's supposed to be nothing but the best. But I think it's, yeah, we're lazy and cheap. Now, as far as moving these, I have not had problems with either one of these. The Lego design is fine. Just grab it by the stands, pick it up. It's easy to move around. Nothing falls off. Not worried about it breaking. The Mould King one is actually supposed to have 2 more stands under here. And they don't like to stay on. When you pick this up and then put it back down, those stands kick out. And I don't see that you really need those stands right now. If it begins to droop at some point in the future, I may put them back under there. But for right now, it's more of a pain in the butt to keep them under there. And it doesn't really look like it needs it. But other than that, yeah, picking it up with these main stands on the Mould King one are actually connected to the spine of the ship. The Lego design has some sticks that go up into the ship, but for the most part, you could just pull those stands right off the bottom if you wanted to. These are actually built into the design and you can't just pull them off. So actually probably a little more sturdy. The only other thing I want to mention is both sets have this ugly problem in the front with this weird gap. And it's not as bad on the Lego design, but it is pretty crap on the Mould King one. And I want to mod this to fix this. It's just ugly. And it reminds me of the worms from Beetlejuice. So that's the only major thing wrong with this Mould King set. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick is the steep angle of the Lego UCS version. The design on this one is very steep. This one is much flatter. It is still angled, but it's not quite as steep a design. And this looks so much more like the movie than this. This is, in my opinion, a little too narrow. The triangle points should be wider like they are on the Mould King version. And it's a little too angled. This is a little too steep of an angle. This really looks more like the movie version than this does. And just look at the... Lego uses very large plates with the studs just on the outside to do the sides of these. Whereas Mould King just has... Look at that detail. I don't know. It just looks nicer to me. All right, guys, for the conclusion on this one, I know in the past, I've pretty much always said when doing the knockoff Lego UCS or the real Lego UCS version, in the case of the AT-AT set, that I prefer the Lego version. However, in this case, the Lego one is a little too steeply angled, making it more of a wedge shape, sort of like a 4-sided knife or something. The Mould King one is quite a bit less steep for the angle, and it looks so much closer to the shape of the movies, especially with the width on the end compared to the Lego version. It just looks much closer to what you see on screen than the Lego UCS version does. So I know for all the other sets, I said it was the Lego UCS version, but for this one, the Mould King one is the clear winner based on looks alone. But not only that, building them both was fun, but the detail on the Mould King one is just so much nicer. It is very sturdy. This is one of their huge models that I am not going to be afraid to put on a shelf because I feel like it's just going to stand up just the way it is. It's fine. You can move it around. Nothing falls off. It's super sturdy. The build process was fun. There were no major issues with it. There was a little bit of issues with the build process because somebody was drunk when they wrote the instruction book. But other than that, putting it together, there was no point in this model where I was trying to put something together and it just wasn't going together because the design sucked. It went together fine. Obviously the Lego designed one, this one is a knockoff, but this one went together fine because Lego is at least decent at making sure most of their models go together very well. Yeah, in terms of putting it together, the design, the looks, I'm just gonna give it to the Mould King one. It's a lot more pieces. It is about an average of $100 US more expensive than the knockoff Lego UCS version. And if you were to get the real Lego UCS version, I mean, good luck with that. It's going to be just as hard to find as the knockoff version now, and it's going to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So I will say, though, that is one thing. You're probably going to have a hard time finding this one. It's a little bit older of a set. The knockoffs tend to get phased out just like the real Lego sets. They run them for a while, and then they end production so they can do something else. So you might have a hard time finding this. If you can, it's $100 cheaper, but if you have the money, I would advise you to go with the Mould King version. It looks so much better. It's a really, I mean, I can't emphasize how nice this one looks. It is really good looking. I think this one is gonna look fantastic on a shelf. So it's really good looking. It's really stable. It's a lot of pieces. It'll take you a while to put together. So maybe you don't buy as many sets because you're building this one forever. It didn't work out that way for me, but maybe it will for you. That's all I really got on this one. So I will be doing probably at least one more video on the Mould King Super Star Destroyer because here, well, I guess this is another thing I should mention. This fits on a foot-wide shelf fine. The stands go on the shelf. The one wing touches the wall just a tiny bit, but it fits on that shelf fine. The Mould King one does not. And the stand doesn't even sit on the shelf. If this is against the wall, it will fall off. So I am going to try to mod. I bought a bunch of Technic pieces from Go Bricks. I'm gonna try to mod the stands on the Mould King one to kind of tilt it, just like the stand for the UCS Millennium Falcon and some of the other larger ships. I'm gonna try to tilt this so that it will display on that shelf and fit, and I don't have to leave it on this table. And I'm also probably gonna do the same thing to the knockoff version of the Lego Star Wars Venator, because that has kind of the same issue. It's very wide and it doesn't want to fit on a shelf. That one is sitting on a foot-wide shelf, barely. It's stable, but I'm kind of afraid it's, you know, the whole stand isn't really on the shelf. So, but this definitely I want to mod and tilt it. I'm also going to look and see if I can find some LED light sets for this, because this one really screams out to be lit up. I would really like to get some of those blue lights for this top part and the signs like are in the movie, and maybe light up those orange engines. I think that would look really good too. So we'll see if I can fit that in somewhere. Other than that, you've reached the end of the video. Yes, this is the one where I said the Mould King one is better than the UCS Lego Star Wars one. I know, you thought it would never happen, but it did. Once again, my name is Jay. This is 7 Star Bricks. Go ahead and give us a like and subscribe if you don't mind. Leave a comment down below. Consider becoming a member. Consider giving us a super thanks. Thank you for joining me on this video. Thank you for all the prior likes and subscribes, guys. It's really helping us out. So keep watching, and we'll keep making the videos, and I'll see you later. Some of you guys stick around too long. The video is over. You can leave or click on one of these links here and watch some more videos. Give us some more watch hours so we can get monetized. Thanks.